So now we just reached the middle of Survivor 49. What are my takes on it? What the frick am I watching? What's up guys, it's Willie, and today I'm back with a video about Survivor, especially when this channel needs a new video after I haven't posted for a whole freaking month. Well, this is what life is as a YouTuber when you have two channels to work with. But anyways, for this Survivor video, I'm going to be talking about my thoughts so far on Survivor 49, which I need to preface this by acknowledging that this season I'm aware is highly spoiled. However, I'm among one of those who are not spoiled on this season, so I have no idea what's going to happen. Plus also, I advise anyone who is watching this video to not drop down any sort of spoiler related stuff in the comment section, because that is going to be prohibited, and if you unfortunately don't comply, your comment will be deleted. So please, out of respect for me and on behalf of anyone who is unspoiled, please don't do that in the comment section, okay? So anyways, back to the main topic. What I'm going to do for this video is that I'm going to share my general thoughts on what the season has been so far and speculate on where the season is going to go from this point based on the edit, as well as talk about the players who have been eliminated so far and do a basic semi-tier list of who I think is likely to win and not. For some disclosure, I'm not going to do those like individual power rankings that other Survivor YouTubers have done, because I want to try and relish a different sort of style with my kind of videos. So it's going to be a lot more of a broader subjective approach with what I'm going to do. So this is basically the way that I'm going to be breaking down this video. So let's start off with my thoughts on the season currently, which I'm not really sure what to say. It's just mid so far. Like, I just have been really checked out of this season because I feel like the edit hasn't really made things interesting or anything that's of substance that could actually resonate with me as much to really care for what's going on. Like, it's a shame because this season felt like it had potential to be a strong rebound after the disastrous 48, but it really is just retreading its footsteps, which I mean, I'm hoping is just for the pre-merge phase and maybe the post-merge is actually going to pick up. But as of right now, I'm just like on the lower ends of how I'm looking at this season. And you know what? This also applies to how I felt in the preseason as well. Like, even after the trailer dropped, I was like, oh, it's just going to be another season of Survivor. Like, I wasn't really pretty much care even before the preseason and stuff. And you know what? Let's make things interesting. Let's compare it to its previous cycle in Survivor 47, where despite the trailer dropping while the season was filming, I still was really hyped for the season, especially with how exciting of a cast it looked coming into it. Like, I was much more hyped in the preseason, before, and even during the season, which felt like I hadn't watched more competent scopes than what this season is currently bringing to the table. Now, to be fair, I think what made 47 a lot more of a hype-inducing season in comparison to 49 in the preseason for me is because of the repercussions from the previous season it was coming out of, where 47 was obviously coming after 46, which the repercussions of that, season 46 was one that I really liked by the end of it despite its bad pre-merge, and it had me really hyped that Survivor was really going in the right direction again, while 49 is coming after the repercussions of 48, which that season was just a total stinker, which kind of checked me out of a lot of Survivor afterwards, and I think that factor has a major reason to why there's a contrast for my hype level between 47 and this season. So then for a more subjective base on the details of the season, it just kind of retreaded a lot of the issues with the stupid 3-tribe format, which is just getting stale at this point. Like, get rid of it, which they finally did, but only for it to play out in the worst possible way, where players are going to play by tribal lines, which does not make for interesting TV. But then we had this latest swap, which although is still bad because I don't like 3-tribe, at least we had a result that did not involve tribal lines and actually had a lot more intrigue, which is kind of making me hopeful that maybe this post-merge is going to be good. And considering the fact that we have this Ule versus Hina war set up, I'm going to give my prayers and hope that this war is going to be like David versus Goliath level from the actual season itself, because that was just pure entertainment. And hopefully what we're being set up here is actually going to go through, or else I'm just going to be left whelmed. And now to talk about who has been eliminated, let's obviously go in chronological order. We start off with Nicole as the first boot, and I'm shocked that she was the first boot, as I had her pegged to make it pretty deep into the game, but for her to be voted out first is just insane that how wrong I was. But yeah, I mean, as a first boot, I mean, she's not entirely that bad. Also, I'm glad that she at least had her moments before she left with the whole water spitting, which has just been always a standout to me. So then we have Annie Davis, who continues the trend of me being wrong of being an endgamer, because I thought she was going to make it far, only for her to be literally the second boot. Which also, on top of that, she was not really playing a good game as well, with how everyone just didn't like her on the tribe, even being labeled as a Karen, which that's very unfortunate. But even then, Annie didn't really do much on the show either, and when her elimination came around, it was just so obvious that it kind of became the catalyst of me getting a little checked out this season with how obvious that boot is going to be, especially even highlighting it in the next episode trailer, which is just really ridiculous. But yeah, at this point, Annie Andy is unfortunately in contention as probably the worst player this season, which is gravely a shame. But then the next player to talk about is Jake, who wasn't even voted out. He was actually medevac because a secret gave him a dry bite, which was pretty chaotic how everything went down. And although I didn't really care about Jake too much, even with the whole weird moments he had, I still did feel bad for the way he went out. And as a player, I mean, he was by far in one of the better spots on the tribe, although I feel like someone was going to pick up on his game eventually. He was someone that was poised to make it pretty far. From what I recall, I did think he was going to make it pretty far as well, which that would have been the case had he not been medevac. But even then, I still didn't really have much to really connect with him as a character, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's someone that was in contention of a return because of what just happened. So then we move over to Jeremiah, who I am just flabbergasted was a pre-merge boot, which to be fair, the circumstances that led to his boot was because he was on a disastrous tribe because 3-tribe format just sucks, but also is in conjunction with Alex's idol, which was pretty much a derivative force that scared Sophie into having to vote Jeremiah as a self-preservation move. But even then, I was also kind of ashamed that Jeremiah wasn't as hyped up in the edit as I thought he would be, with his very infectious laugh and also some potential of really big character moment. He should have been gleaned on a bit better, but instead he was just given a more shafted edit, which leaves me perplexed. But either way, this just retreads how wrong I was with a lot of people in my predictions, so clearly I don't know how to assess players at this point. But anyways, we didn't get to Matt, who is although the first players that I was sort of right, where I was expecting him to be a pre-merge boot, and here we are. However, I was expecting him to be one of the first few boots, which to be fair, it was kind of a case since he went home on his first tribal, but also is under the circumstance of him being swap screwed as well, so it does sort of subvert a lot of my prediction, despite being somewhat right. But either way, I didn't really get much from Matt either, and he was just someone that I probably forgot was even on the season. So next up, we have Jason, who is on par with Matt because I really did not get much out of him as well, and besides him just being known as like the best at puzzles in the immunity challenge, alongside him being the alternate, which he highlighted himself, I just don't have much to gauge off of him since how shallow of an edit he got on the season. So he's going to be among those that are unnotable from this batch of players as well. And then lastly, we have Shannon, who is just a wild case for me, which she is a crazy player on the season. And so her downfall in this latest episode was something that was highly anticipated, and for it to play out, and also on top of that with the moment between her and Sage, was just purely refreshing after the stretch of just like whatever episodes we got. But yeah, it felt like she was on a great starting tribe and had a majority of lines around her just for her position to crumble after the swap, and continuously does so as people started seeing right through her game. But I feel like her one-side rival with Sage, which is mostly on Sage's side, was definitely such riveting TV to watch that made things a lot more interesting about her run this season. So now with that out of the way, let's get to basically my theories on who I think has the best contention to possibly win this season from a more edit standpoint. And to iterate, I'm not going to be like going through individual players and like doing the power ranking sort of shtick. This is going to be a more broader assessment on like groupings of players I don't think has any chance to players who I think have the highest chance. So let's obviously start out with the lower ends, and the players that I unfortunately don't see in some sort of winning position is the likes of like Jawan, Sophie, and sadly Christina, which I'm really deeply ashamed of, considering their edits are not really giving them a winning storyline. I mean, Jawan in particular is getting the most negativity out of it, while the two Hinas here are just basically severely under-edited, which funnily enough, they have this little setup of a rivalry that's potentially going to happen after Christina tried to use Sophie S as a decoy name. But unfortunately, the edit has just not been there for them to create a somewhat sufficient storyline that would make them go on to win the season. So unfortunately, how much I do really like all three of them is by far self-explanatory that they are out of contention to win. So then for the next grouping of players, I have Alex and Sage, who I would describe as the players that we at least got to know, but are just lacking a sort of edit that would support their win. Like, these two are kind of interesting, you know? We have Sage, who just came out of this episode fulfilling her one-sided rivalry with Shannon, which was the bulk of her storyline this season up to this point. But then comes to questions of where she's gonna go at this point. And same thing as Alex, where he's not really given much depth with his relationships or dynamic in the game that makes me fully understand his positioning moving forward. Like these two seem to have okay edits, but not one that is in particular of depth to actually elicit a winning storyline. So then the next tier, I'm putting the established Hina duo, MC and Steven, alongside Nate, because it feels like we know them pretty well, but the edit is just not there to give them a true winning trajectory. I mean, we all know MC has the beware advantage that she will activate her idol soon at the merge, and then she has a well-established relationship with Steven that seemed to be really important coming into this season. Nate, on the other hand, just had a really negative episode, and although I'm aware it could be set up to like what makes a new era winner a winner, it's still in a position that he seems more like fodder to be the boot from the Uli side of things if Nate is able to overpower them. So that setup alone and how it seems the narrative is going really does make Nate drop significantly to this tier list alongside the other Hinas. So then to the top tier, obviously we have Savannah, Rizzo, and Sophie. Like the three of them, we've gotten to know pretty well. I mean, Sophie in particular, because she was on the Disaster Tribe. Savannah has such a big edit, such fun character energy, but also seemingly being shown at times that she doesn't have much to contribute to that situation. It's just more so the fact that she has to be shown because she is very important to the season, which good. And then Rizzo, where we really have gotten to know him pretty well. He had that really strong moment at the task where he was able to beat Alex getting the supplies, which although it could come off circumstantial at point because, I mean, he's at the task, the fact that they give him more highlight and focus in on his phrase of Riz God baby is just telling us that we are meant to really root for this guy. And especially now that his idol is leaked to everyone, it does kind of put him in an interesting spot. Where, I mean, the one major downside could be is if he's forced to flush his idol, or Sophie B, who has the knowledge and power, could steal from him. But I feel like overall, these three have been such a significant part to the storyline of the season, and it does make me believe that at least one of them should be in contention to win, based on what the edit is telling us. And before I end off this episode, I might as well talk about in this section, which I have to warn you will be contextualizing the two players who are returning for Survivor 50. So if you don't want to know any of it right now, I would recommend you skip this part of the video, and I will put in timestamps to help you out with that. But anyways, this section is basically me just trying to concept theories or speculation on where these two players are going to go now, especially knowing that they earned their spot on the 50th season. So as you may know, the returning players from this season are Savannah and Rizzo, who have both made it to the merge, which obviously, since we knew they were on the cast even before the season aired, it was unsurprising that they would even make it to the mid-season. And honestly, with the way that they are edited, it is warranted on why I even put them in top contention. Not that it has anything to do with the bias of them being the known returnees for Survivor 50, it's more so how the edit has portrayed them to make us really care for their story. Which, to be fair, I mean, the edit might have just done that just because they need to find a way to make us connected with these players who are going to be going on the next season. But with the spot they're in, it's pretty interesting. They are both obviously from Ule and have been in a very unique position as part of a opposing force to Hina, which does add to a number of possibilities where it could go from them, where I think by how the edit is going, it's obvious that Ule is going to win. However, if there is a possibility that one of them took the fall and the other went ahead on a revenge arc, which is similar to like a Jeremy and Natalie situation, I definitely think this is one to keep in mind that could be a potential storyline with these two. Another thing that could come to my mind is that they completely dominated the season together, but then one of them eventually cut the other by the end. They could both be like finalists or something, or even both like the final boss that were taken out back to back. Like, there is so many theories I can have with the thought of them being on 50 and the position that they're currently in. So this is all purely speculative, and we'll just see how the season really goes with them. Hopefully they'll able to make that mark that warranted them the spot on the 50th season. But there we have it. This is where I stand with the season of Survivor currently, and despite how mid the season has been so far, I'm still trying to be hopeful that what we're being set up is going to play out in the most fun and interesting way possible, especially with the potential warring that it is going to seemingly elicit. Fingers crossed. But yeah, I appreciate y'all tuning in. Take the moment to tap that like and subscribe for more reality TV related content on this channel. So that's my sign off. We'll see you in the next video.